I'm Dr. Deb Butler, and you are listening to Thinner Peace and Menopause and Beyond. This is episode number 478. Well, hello, all my dear friends all over the world, Australia, UK, Ireland. I'm working with all of you right now, and I love it. And today I am talking about a podcast listener and I think she's international, but I'm not sure where she's from. But she sent me an email recently, and I would love to share it with you because number one, she's lost over 100 pounds listening to my podcast and using my tools over the last 4 years. This podcast has been going on that long, actually longer. And I'm not going to mention her name, but she's a podcast listener. And she's sent me emails over the years, and that's how I know about the weight loss and about the tools and how she's using them, and that she'll come to some of my master classes and she'll get some really good stuff out of it. But she's never paid anything. She's learned this all from my podcast, which has always been free. And I'm so happy that I can do that for those of you who cannot afford to work with me, but need to have this freedom that I figured out how to do. And I'm so happy to be able to pass it on to you if I'm paid or if I'm not. And for her, over the last 4 years, not a penny, but 100 pounds. But what I've gotten from her, not in the money, but in the emails and, oh my God, the delight that I feel for her and how happy I am that I have put this out into the airways to allow people to be able to use some of the things that I used to have peace from food and to find other things to think about other than my weight and how I look and how much I weigh. And so this has happened for her. And I think she's just a regular person, just like me or you. And she's just been diligent, I think, about listening. And she said that even that she's listened to a lot of my older podcasts. So, these podcasts have been going on for maybe 8 years, I think. It's been so long, I can't even keep track of it. 478 episodes. That's all I know. And I know I keep showing up every week, and I keep thinking of things, of how I can talk to you and say it in ways, and from working with hundreds of women to help your brain get that drama and food do not go together. And when you can have peace with food, you end up with peace with a lot of things, including you and your body. And so today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read what she sent me, and I'm going to read it to you. But she said that she wanted to share an image of some of the helpful quotes from my podcast that have helped her. And she says she has them hanging in her sewing room. And so they're little sticky notes. And I thought I would read them to you and then put a little explanation on each one of how I came up with them. And maybe it'll help you not just lose weight, but to find peace around food too. And she says that she's still working it and that she needs to be mindful and that listening to the podcast helps. And she still comes to some of my master classes. And she'll send me things that when she has fearful thoughts about gaining her weight back, everybody seems to have that the thought of afraid of gaining weight will lead you to gaining weight. So you have to be very mindful that if that's a thought that's running around in your head, it's going to help you gain weight. It's not going to help you lose weight. So fear never helps. And the thought that creates the emotion never helps. So let me start with what she calls Dr. Deb-isms. And I just love it. And I love that I've been able to help her over the years. And I'm not going to mention her name because it's private. But I am going to mention Dr. Deb-isms because I've already said it on all of my podcasts. I'm going to explain them. So the first Dr. Debism is that I can feel the feeling without eating it. Now, I came up with that because what I have learned in my work is that there is emotional eating and physical hunger eating. In other words, you eat because you're physically hungry, but if you're not physically hungry and you know you're not hungry and you still want to eat, that's what I call emotional hunger. And emotional hunger can never be filled with food. You're never going to be satisfied. The only way to handle emotional hunger is to feel it, because the worst thing that can happen is feeling an emotion. That's the worst thing that can happen. Every time you feel a feeling, you don't get to feel it, and it doesn't help you get to wherever you need to get, because our emotions do help us, negative emotions and positive emotions. And if you're not willing to feel the negative emotions, then I have news for you. It's also hard for you to feel the positive emotions. So the first Dr. Debism, I'll say it again, is I can feel the feeling without eating it. So you can put that on a sticky note if you want, just like she did. Maybe she has it in her sewing room. I bet she spends a lot of time in there, and it reminds her. The next Dr. Debism is if hunger isn't the problem, food isn't the solution. And let me tell you, I have said that for 8 years, because when I used to be on diets all the time, and I was a Weight Watcher member, and nothing against Weight Watchers at all, it was just the way I was using it, is that I just wanted to get the points in, and it really didn't matter if I was hungry as long as it was within the points. And I always believed if I was eating something healthy, even if it was just lettuce, it was okay. But what I've learned over time is that if you're not hungry, it's not healthy. Now, she doesn't have that as a Dr. Debism, but I've added that. If hunger isn't the problem, food isn't the solution, ever. So if you know the difference between how it feels to be physically hungry, if you have physical hunger and you're ready to eat at a -2, because I have a physical hunger scale that goes from a -10 to a +10, and I advise to eat between the two. Start at a -2, which is the whisper of hunger, and stop at a +2, which is a whisper of fullness, which is really the way I believe our body is wired. And if you're at a -2, the only thing that's going to solve your problem is food, because you're physically hungry. But if you're at a +2 and you think you're hungry, it's emotional hunger. And the solution is never food, even if it's healthy. If you're not hungry, it's not healthy. If hunger isn't the problem, food isn't the solution. And then, from the first sticky note that she wrote, you either feel the feeling or you feel the feeling. I'm recommending you feel the feeling. And you start with the less strength feelings. Okay, the next Dr. Debism is I can have anything I want, but do I want it? Now, I've stated that in many, many podcasts, and the way that I refer to that is I believe you have to think that you can eat whatever you want. But then the question becomes, but do I really want it? Do I want what comes with it? That's really the question. That's how I meant it to be, as if I can eat anything I want, but do I want it? Do I want weight gain, if that comes with it? Do I want extra urges, if that comes with it? Do I want whatever the feeling is that comes if I eat too much sugar? Do I want it? And sometimes the answer may be, yes, I do. I'll take the consequences and I'll be very mindful about it. But I can eat whatever I want. But do I really want it? And once you believe that you can eat whatever you want, the answers start to change and the urges start to change. Things calm down when you really believe you can have whatever you want. And I was just coaching a client in a group recently, and she was talking to me, and she's been working with me for a while, and she's lost a considerable amount of weight. And she says that she's noticing that every night after dinner, even before she's through eating, her mind is already saying, I want something sweet. And the way that she thinks about that right now is she thinks that she shouldn't be thinking it. And the more she thinks she shouldn't be thinking it, the more she wants it. And so this is what I said is that it's, maybe if you believed you could eat whatever you want, in other words, if you want something sweet after dinner, you can have it. But do you really want it? But when you tell yourself you can't have it, you think you always want it. So my suggestion to her is to plan a joy eat every night after dinner. Have it planned. And I'm very curious as to what happens to the urges when she says, I can have it. So I'll let you in on what she has to say, but I know from experience is that when you believe you can have something, you don't want it as much. As soon as you think you can't have something, that's all your brain can think about. So what's that Dr. Deb-ism? The third Dr. Deb-ism? I can have anything I want, but do I want it? Now, here's the next Dr. Deb-ism. Eat when I'm hungry, stop when I'm full. That has been my mantra from the day I started this podcast till today, and it will never stop because it's the thing that changed my life is when somebody asks me, why do I eat when I'm not hungry? And I really had to think about it because I didn't know if I did or I didn't. It didn't even occur to me. I was eating within a plan. And it was an externalized plan, and it was based on points, and I wanted to get those points in, and I didn't want to go hungry. That's all I knew. And I wanted to be as full as I could be and still lose weight. And all of that kind of thinking comes with thinking you can't have something. So as soon as you believe you can, it'll be very interesting as to what your brain does. Okay, the last Dr. Deb-ism is this, and this is the last one. Urges will pass. And I think that's a really good one too, because urges are a form of emotional hunger. And emotional hunger is not physical hunger. It can be sadness, it can be boredom, it can be loneliness. It could also be tired. It could also be an urge, an urgent desire. There's no sadness, there's no loneliness. There's just a thought that says, I want something sweet. And that when that thought comes up, it creates an urge. So I do a lot of work, and I've talked a lot on the podcast about urges, and that urges, which is a feeling, always comes from a thought. It never comes from a circumstance or an object. It doesn't come from brownies. It doesn't come from potato chips. It comes from what you think about those things. And those thoughts are what create urgent desires. And what she is saying in this, and this is very, very true, and it's a wonderful thing to be able to say to yourself, because in the moment when you think something, like my client who thinks I need something sweet, it doesn't feel like it's going to go away. It feels like it's just going to stay and get stronger. But actually, like all feelings, if you don't resist them, they will pass. They will dissipate. They will weaken. And the more you don't give in to an urge, the weaker they get over time. So urges will pass because one of the things, and this is from a lot of Buddhist philosophy and Buddhist teachings, is the only thing that you can actually depend on in life is change. So when you're going through something and it's wonderful, enjoy it because it'll change. When you're going through something that's terrible, don't worry. It will pass. It will change, which is the whole idea in Buddhism about holding on to anything and enjoying the moment. All comes from the idea that things will change. So, whatever it is, wherever you are, it's going to change, including an urge. Okay, so that's what I have for you this week, Dr. Deb-isms. And I really appreciate this podcast listener. She's lost 100 pounds, and these are the wise things that came out of my head that she has written down that I wanted to share with you. Because if it helped her, it might help you too. And instead of going back and listening to however many podcasts she's listened to be able to get these words of wisdom, she's sharing them, and I'm sharing them with you. So, of course, I would never end this podcast without telling you first and foremost is that no matter where you go or who you're with or what you're doing, please, please, please be very, very kind to yourself. And I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.